If you're planning on moving abroad or even thinking about it, this is probably the video you're going to want to watch. We've been living overseas now for about a month and a half, and it's going pretty great. We wanted to discuss some of the things we expected and some of the things we did not expect. So, here we go.
In the list, there will be pros and cons because we want to be honest and not try to paint this as like the most magical place ever because it's still real life, although it was much easier to come up with the pros than the cons.
Liam has now joined us, so if you hear something in the background, that's Liam playing on the floor. First thing that I wanted to discuss was public transportation, which is actually really nice because we don't have a car right now, but also it's just kind of nice to have public transportation, and if you want, people can drive you around. It's like having a personal chauffeur all the time. I mean, it's
that you pay for.
You're paying for them, and it's a taxi. It's not like a limousine, but at least it's there and it's an option.
Yeah, the most expensive Grab taxi that you can get is still affordable, and definitely less expensive than maintaining a car.
So on the subject of cheap things over here, we have moved to Thailand from the US. And so you may be thinking about moving somewhere else, but one of the things you want to look into is obviously cost of living. Public transportation is really cheap here in Bangkok where we live, but another thing that's really great is street food. We're doing this tonight, we're going out, and I am gonna buy us some pad thai. It's gonna be great. Somehow we've made it a month and a half without having any pad thai.
I think it's because the lady who sells it is only out there sometimes.
Maybe it's also because she's across the street, and there's also stuff that's
and why would you cross the street?
It's more accessible. So tonight, we don't want to cook food, so instead we're just gonna go out for food, and it's affordable. It's within walking distance, so it's super great.
But then last night we cooked food from scratch because we felt like it. I personally love the accessibility to fresh fruits and vegetables. We were having. If any of you are still in America, you know this, but the grocery bill was just increasing every week. And I prefer to eat organic and I don't know, just try and make health conscious choices, and it was just not becoming an option anymore.
Yeah, what's the place that they have in Roanoke? Fresh Market?
Fresh Market.
Fresh Market. Okay, so Fresh Market, I love Fresh Market.
Yes.
But all their stuff is so expensive.
At least for our income bracket at the time, we could not do that on a normal basis.
So now that we live in Thailand, we actually have a fresh market that we can go to. We can actually go and get fresh vegetables and fruits, and it doesn't cost a whole lot. And actually it ends up costing more if you go to the grocery store here. It's better to get the fresh stuff here.
Yeah, and sometimes you do want to go to the grocery store because they have imported fruits and vegetables, but if you are good with Thai fruits and vegetables, it's all organic. You just go down there and go get some.
But when we're talking about food, we also have problems with food because almost every single day we will start craving some sort of Western food that you just can't get here, or you can't get here easily.
Yeah.
Most of the time you are able to find Western food, and that is a good thing that it's out there. You just kind of have to go and look for it, and if you're going and looking for Western food, it's not the cheapest option. Thai food is definitely the cheapest option.
And so good.
Yeah.
But it's not, if you're not used to that cuisine, eating it every single day, especially for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it can be exhausting to your palate to constantly have that change. I think that would be true anywhere. Just being aware, you're probably gonna have a month or two where you're oh my word, I hate this.
Yeah, because I love Thai food, but yeah, if I'm eating it every single day, yeah, I eventually get sick of it, yeah.
But the nice part is that usually the way we can find Western food or just whatever we're craving is because of Grab. So Grab is an app, and they have other apps too, like Bolt and stuff, but we just prefer Grab. And you can order it on there, and then they deliver it for $2.
Oh, it's less than that.
Is it less?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times.
Crazy.
A lot of times, delivery for food through Grab is 20 baht, which is 30.
Right, yeah.
30 baht is $1, so a lot of times it's around 20.
I think
sometimes it's more, but
$2 because 20.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not how it works.
So, anyways, a lot of times you can get it for under $1 for delivery. Of course, you still have to pay for the meal, but it's so inexpensive to get it here.
It does help with the accessibility of public transportation because yes, you could go out and get it, but why would you? If you could just have someone deliver it to your house.
Yeah. Okay, and I love that public transportation is so inexpensive because there's so much to do here.
Yeah. So much.
Any kind of food that you want to eat, you're able to find it somewhere in Bangkok. Any activity you want to do, you'll be able to find it somewhere.
And the activities range, like anywhere from, like we were saying, the market, like you can go down and like have a very authentic Thai experience of what they do every day when they're buying food, and it's inexpensive. Or you can do what we did on Saturday and do a fancy coffee crawl where you go to like some of the best coffee shops I've ever been to.
Oh yeah,
all
that
in
was
our
so much
area.
fun.
It was like within 2 kilometers of our
Yeah,
house.
we did not have to drive very far.
It's crazy.
I also saw this one place on TikTok. It was like a playground for adults, basically, and it looked so much fun. I want to do it at some point in the future. They also have like ice skating rinks and places to do like winter things.
Right.
Even in Bangkok. So anyways, it blows my mind when I find places like that where it's like, I never would have guessed that this is here.
If you can imagine it, it's probably in Bangkok. So if there's something you want us to do in Bangkok, let us know. We just went to Malaysia because we had a 3-day weekend. Like, how crazy is that phrase coming out of our mouths after living in Virginia?
Well, like in the US, it's so expensive to travel at all. Not even internationally, just domestically. And part of that is because it's a huge country.
Yeah, like it's not all of it, like America just sucks. Like, it's a big country.
But because we live here, transportation is significantly less expensive. If we wanted to take a trip in Thailand, like a domestic flight, it would be super inexpensive. And then international flights are also really cheap.
This does lead into a con, which I think you will experience in a lot of other countries if you're coming from America. Things tend to take a long time to happen, even if it's important things. Like my visa is going to run out before we're getting it renewed because things are just taking a really, really long time. And that's a combination of miscommunication on the US Embassy side, miscommunication on the Thai immigration side, just the cost of mail. So we'll be taking a visa run to another country, which you guys will see a video about that. We don't know where we're going. So it kind of plays in.
So it's like,
it's good that you can access other countries easily because I'm gonna have to leave the country.
Yeah. And we could even, like, if we wanted to save money and not fly for this visa run, we could actually just take a bus. And it would be less expensive, but
we're probably just gonna make a trip out of it.
we'll make it something that's enjoyable. Another problem that goes along with that, because it's taking a long time for us to also get our work permit, which means that we can't purchase anything that we need our work permit for. For example, we enjoy having inexpensive public transportation, but also it means that if you're going anywhere, you can only basically go from point A to point B. You can't go off the path, you can't like go exploring on your own. You have to always pay someone to take you.
Or
can't
road tripping or
yeah. And so you're limited in where you can go in that sense. So we really want a car, but we can't get it until we get our work permit, and it is taking a long time for them to get our work permit back to us. It should still be here in the next week or two. But like I said, we've already been here a month and a half. Like,
and in the end, it's just a time thing. We're going to be able to have these things because there's a couple of other things with the work permit that would be nice to have.
Yeah, it's like,
but
it's a little
going to work out.
It's uncomfy now that we're here.
Right.
But that is not going to be life here.
Uncomfy is the right way to say it.
Yeah.
It's just like harder to transition. There is this thing called geo-blocking on any internet site, social media, streaming service. We have a VPN that thankfully you can kind of like get around that. We love our VPN. So usually if you say you're in the US, you can access a lot of US things like your US bank account, different things that would be blocked in Thailand, right? But for some reason Hulu is not working, even with the VPN, and I'm so annoyed. I want to watch Only Murders in the Building.
So we use ExpressVPN, and by the way, this is not sponsored, we just really like ExpressVPN.
Oh yeah, we've been using it for years.
They help us to be able to access a lot of things. Most importantly, when we were living in Thailand a few years ago, they helped us be able to access our bank information.
Right.
We didn't realize until we got here we were not going to have access to our US bank accounts once we arrived in Thailand. And so
look into that no matter where you're moving.
Yeah, ExpressVPN helped us to be able to gain access to that even though we were in Thailand. But yeah, it can be really frustrating when those sites are blocked. And it's just kind of something that it's like sometimes you're not able to get around it and you're just not able to have some of the shows that you want.
Also, your TikToks change.
Oh, they do.
If your phone number changes, your TikToks change.
Well, definitely your ads change. And then, like, I had to retrain my TikTok For You page, and I just had to tell it, like, oh, I'm not interested in a lot of the Thai videos.
Like, I don't speak Thai,
yeah. And maybe it would have been a good way to help me learn the language. But I was like when I get on TikTok, I want to be entertained. I want to laugh. I want to learn. But I'm not.
You don't want to learn. You want to like have your brain numb.
I want to learn like stupid facts. Guys, one of the best things and one of the biggest reasons why we decided to move abroad is because U.S. healthcare was so unaffordable and so unreasonably expensive.
For our income bracket. I will always say that because I can't speak for every single person in America. So for example, I went to the doctor when we first got here. I had a really rough flight, dehydrated. And we paid out of pocket for it because our health insurance was not set up. And it was cheaper than our copay in the United States. You realize that?
Yeah.
Like just paying for, and it was a good doctor too. I feel like that's a misconception here. Like when you go to other places, it's bad doctors. Like it is a good professional, clean hospital with professional nurses and doctors. And yeah, it was cheaper there.
A lot of Americans think that if you go overseas, somehow you're losing modern medicine, and that's just not the case. Like modern medicine is all over the world. People are born every single day in other countries, people live every single day in other countries, and people get healthcare every single day in other countries. So I don't feel like living here is sacrificing any of the quality healthcare that we could receive outside of Thailand.
And a caveat, that is because when we are here, we are able to afford that. I do realize for some people here, they can't afford even what we think is affordable. So like it's all just a change in perspective. Just there is good healthcare out there. It doesn't mean it's accessible to everyone. One thing that's been really good for our Americanness is to have a slower pace of life. Like even your job here as a teacher, which I know not everyone's going to be a teacher, but don't you feel like even your job here, like the expectations put on you and different things have been so much chiller?
Yeah, it's much slower paced than a teaching job back in the US.
Yeah.
But I feel like I actually have one of the most fast-paced jobs of a lot of people in Thailand.
Right. We're having so many visa problems with mine specifically, and a lot of it is like a miscommunication because it takes weeks to get this information. Slower pace is good, but also just that cultural shift is hard sometimes because we want to get stuff done.
We have figured out pretty quickly everyone who lives here has visa problems from time to time. So it's just, it comes with living over here.
It comes with being an expat. I think this is probably any country.
Yeah, and it's not something to be like super concerned about. Like it happens and you figure it out. Other problems that you may face is also just a change in culture. People act differently, and as a sign of respect when you're moving into their country, you are the one that needs to change and acclimate to their customs and their culture. It is very rude to do certain things that's very acceptable in the US. For example, in America, we're very loud people, and that's just really not acceptable. It's like, it's kind of rude to be a very loud person out in public, so you try to be very like mellow and talk very calmly and quietly.
And I'm sure we think that we're super chill, but they probably still know we're Americans and loud, but we try.
We try.
We're like doing this instead of this.
Yeah.
Like it might seem just like a small thing, but it's a big deal.
Don't point. Don't.
At people. You can point at things, but not people.
Or statues, Buddhist statues of Buddha.
Or the king.
Don't touch the heads of anyone.
Oh my word, that's a huge one that I did not know about last time.
Oh yeah, and it's so important as teachers. Not so much for me as like a secondary teacher. I don't usually touch students' heads.
Right.
But
like little kids.
Yeah, if you're like an elementary teacher, like I feel like you often kind of like as they're walking, you end up,
just
like
kind of
touching
like almost
head.
like endearing
and
too.
it's like and it's totally acceptable in the US, but here it's like very much
very bad.
Very bad thing.
Very bad.
No,
religiously bad.
Yeah,
like
because they believe the head is like the holiest part of the body, and so when you're touching it, you're like defiling their spiritual. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, no, that's it. It's a sacred place on your body. It's so hot here, which I actually enjoy. I enjoy that it is really warm. I just feel better when it's warm, but sometimes it can be a lot. Like I remember in the springtime in the US, we were spending hours and hours outside. We were like living outside because it was like a nice 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And here, if you do that, you gotta bring a lot of water and be playing in water.
It's like eternally like 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Every day, all day, every day, no matter what month you're here. So like wherever you're going, that's just something to be aware of, is that climate's gonna be different.
Because it could be the opposite way too. It could be colder than you're expecting.
We already talked a little bit about the culture, but regardless of what country you're going to, it's your responsibility to change to their culture. They should not have to change for you. But I feel like Thai people are just so accepting of people who just try even a little bit to get past the language barrier that it's okay for us to speak English to them or try to communicate that way. I always try to communicate in Thai if I know the phrases.
Yeah, you do Thai first.
Yeah.
And then
And-
you can kind of tell if they speak English or not.
And you have no right to be frustrated at anyone who does not speak your language. If you're moving overseas, don't go there and expect them to speak your language, and don't go there if you're going to be frustrated at those people for not speaking your language.
It's so rare to only speak your first language. People, so often they're bilingual, trilingual, you know, it's just a different mind shift that you should have. Like, I'm going to try at least to learn this language.
Yeah. It should not be something where you come here and you just say like, oh, there's always going to be a language barrier. Like, try to blend in. Like, if you're coming here because you think that you're going to thrive in this culture, like, become that culture. So like us coming here, we're trying to become Thai. We're trying to tone it down in public, trying to be less entitled, trying to learn the language and speak Thai because that's where we live.
And we don't do it perfectly.
No.
So we're still learning. This one is probably the hardest one. Being away from your friends and family, that is definitely the hardest thing about moving. Hands down. Because like, especially for us, we were living near my family and we were used to like them being a part of Liam's life on a more than weekly basis. Like, it's just, it's a hard transition, and it's definitely something to consider. Like, it's not a small thing. You have to think about if it's worth moving with losing that connection to family.
Right.
And friends too.
Welcome back. We also had to leave our cat.
We had to leave our cat! I'm so sad about that. You know, I heard a bell last night and I like woke up trying to let him out and I was like, oh
really?
He's not here.
What are you doing?
What?
The last thing on our list is a good thing, and maybe you may not think this is a good thing, but I think this is good for anyone. Moving abroad helps you to grow as a person. It forces you to mature. It forces you to be independent. It forces you to learn and to improve in ways that people who don't move abroad just are never going to have the chance to. One of the most exciting things is that we get to fully experience a culture. You learn so much by just stepping outside of your own culture and learning more about the people who live overseas.
It challenges your default settings.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
So I hope that you have enjoyed listening to some of the pros and cons of moving abroad. We would love to hear comments from you guys if we've missed anything, or if there's anything else that you have experienced living abroad that's super important and you feel like some other people should know. Like and subscribe to our channel and join us as we continue to post more travel tips like this and we continue to explore the world. So to close us out, I want to encourage you guys to ask yourself, why not move abroad?